Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat, and Air. Once again, with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And we are in the studio with Dan Foss. We've got two Dans, so I have to make sure to put out Foss. We've got two Dons and we've got two Scotts. So, yeah, trying to keep up with everybody is a little hard. And then we've got Rosalie, who's in lovely LA, in her studio. Yeah, we're going to kind of lead in with life in LA with the hurricane slash earthquake slash whatever else has gone on down there, and then the wonky weather that we've had up here this week, and then, I don't know, this year it's been kind of a weird. So how are you down there in lovely LA? And
Well,
what neighborhood are you in? You're not Eagle
so
Rock, but you're in like
oh no.
yeah.
I'm in Silver Rock is behind me, or Silver Lake is behind me. I'm actually in Los Feliz, and I'm right by Griffith Park, and then right up the road is
Right,
Dodger Stadium.
right.
And then right across the way is the LA River and Highway 5. And so, I'm in a good, I love where I am until there's a storm called hurricane.
Right.
So there's a couple things that were happening. I didn't know there was a hurricane coming because why would I assume there's a hurricane until I got an email that said
Well,
hurricane
tropical
prep.
storm, but whatever. Yeah,
They started off saying
it was
hurricane
a
prep.
hurricane. Yeah, yeah,
And I
Tropical
was like,
storm gets downgraded.
yeah.
I thought like hurricane prep, like this is a spam email. It
Right.
wasn't. And so then the biggest problem for us was that we couldn't get any, believe it or not, reliable information on timing, volume,
Yeah,
how far it was, because the deal was it was going to be a category 5 and then it was going to hit land by San Diego, right, Mexico, and then go to San
right,
Diego. By the time it got to us, it was supposed to be tropical storm, but the concern was wind knocking out, power lines, and then obviously flooding because we're not prepared to handle that much water.
right. It doesn't rain in
So,
LA.
I mean,
Yeah,
it does,
yeah, that
but
much.
not, we didn't know if it meant we were going to get 12 inches in,
Yeah,
as many out. We didn't know what we were getting. So I kept trying to refresh the news. And so I'm literally hunkered down, bought some supplies in case the power is going to be out. I'm on the couch. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon waiting. Is this thing coming? This is Sunday. Is this thing coming? When is it going to be tonight? When is it? And the couch starts moving. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? And so I was like, why is this happening? And so I did go online and it was like a 5.5, I think,
yeah.
magnitude,
In
um,
Ojai.
out of
Yeah,
out of Ojai, which is not
yeah,
that far.
yeah.
And I was like, is today the day? Like it just burns down. Like this is it. Today's the day. The river's right there. It's gonna come grab me. So at the end of the day, at the end of the storm, the biggest challenge was that we couldn't get reliable information on the location
Right,
because, believe it or not, they were not updating like where it was, and so we kept thinking, okay, is this the band? Is the wind
right. Is
coming?
this the
Is
front of the storm, or is it? Yeah.
right,
I mean, that's the
right,
weird thing. Like, I kept seeing things too. Like, this is California. We're used to fires and earthquakes, but none of this
snow,
tornado slash hurricane slash typhoons or whatever tropical
that's
storm
crazy.
stuff. I mean, that's other states, right? So
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
and
crazy.
they were not on top of it at all. Yeah,
No,
and I
I
kept
was,
trying
I
to
was,
figure out, like, I've been to Baja a lot and trying to figure out what was going on down there, and trying to
yep.
find information on what was happening down in Mexico was really hard as well. Yeah,
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, what ended up happening, I did find the day after, we actually had some rain. I had no flooding, power stayed on. But this was like neighborhood by neighborhood because my neighborhood was fine. But if you went a little bit to the east, it wasn't fine.
right.
Their cars were washed out. So Palm Springs was hit really hard.
Yeah,
It, came right up through the desert and the mountains. And we did have people in different, like I said, pockets of Los Angeles that got in some trouble. I did have two helicopters. It was very odd. So I had two helicopters. One was a Coast Guard, and one I think it was looked like a CHP or law enforcement, whatever. And they were hovering right in my neighborhood. Like I could look at them
Wow.
without binoculars. They were shaking the place because they were so close.
Yeah.
Someone had they had to
You
do
sure
a
it was them or not another earthquake?
Right.
no. It was a rescue. It was a rescue in the river. Um,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and so I mean, as far as I know, we didn't have fatalities, but it was just surreal. I mean, when
Yeah.
I lived in, Northern California, when I lived with, up by you guys, I had the power go out for 7 to 14 days because of
Yeah.
snow. And then I moved to Detroit and I was like, well, there'll be some weather. Okay, then we had the global freeze, like negative
Right.
35, the vortex.
The
And then
vortex,
I,
the
and
polar
then I come,
vortex. Yeah.
yeah, and then I come back to Los Angeles and I'm like, what, did you say hurricane? So I'm I'm just
So,
over
so,
it.
So where are you moving next? Yeah.
well, so
Yeah,
here's the thing: as long as we're
We're not
not
gonna
living
follow
where,
you.
as long as we're not living where she's at, we're fine.
Yeah.
you're safe.
Exactly.
I think a
All
lot of
right.
people, I can give you a phone number of some people that will confirm that, but that's off the air. That's a lot of people would say it's best not to live by me or with me, but they're not on the show today. So now that we covered all that good stuff, Andrew, I want to kind of segue in because we have Dan, and I love dealing with Dan because he's a great question asker and answer person.
Yeah. And he
So before we
also, you go ahead. You're gonna
Well,
leave me in.
before we get there, I wanted
All
you
right.
to kind of get excited and tell people if they're listening what kind of specials we have going on right now.
Yeah. So for those 12 people that actually listen to our show, so Dan is heading up. Dan has been working with us for how long now?
Oh, I think we're coming up on 5 to 6 years, somewhere like that. With
You
you
left for a
guys.
little bit and came back.
Right, but that, yeah, about 5, 6 years.
5 or 6 years, and then he and I worked
I've been
together
filming for 24.
22, and you and I worked together 24 years ago, I think.
Yeah, pretty close.
It was back in like 2000 or 99, somewhere in there, a long time ago. I mean, that shows our age. But anyway, so we've known each other for a long
Thanks, Tom.
time, and he's been doing this for a long time. So he's actually heading up our drain cleaning division. And that division we started 2.5 months ago, and it's taken off like gangbusters. But
Mm.
we've got what's helping that is we've got this ridiculously low loss leader or ridiculously low price to start this thing up. We're only charging $97 to clear any drain in a residence in a residential home environment. So if you own your house, $97 will clean any drain in your house. If we don't clear it, it's free. We also have a bunch of $49 specials going on right now. $49 for a plumbing water heater flush. So we come in and flush your water heater, and if you haven't flushed your water heater in, I don't know, you're supposed to be doing it about every year, especially if you're on a well. We come out, we can actually show you how to do it. So on the next year, you can actually do it yourself. But we also make sure the thing is running properly and safely, so it's not like spewing out carbon monoxide. And we do a cursory visual inspection of all the plumbing fixtures and plumbing around the house to make sure it's all working right and making sure there's no issues. We also have a $49 10-point electrical home inspection. If you haven't had your electrical system inspected in the last 20 years, it should be about every 20 years. Surprisingly enough, electrical devices break down, and they generally have a lifespan of about 10 years. So technically every 10 years, but really after 20 years, you should really have your home electrical system inspected. So again, that's $49. And then we always have our $49 HVAC inspection where we come out and check your furnace and air conditioning. And I know speaking of weird weather, I mean, it's going to be 90 here in Auburn and probably 85 up in Grass Valley. So it's kind of our shoulder season. But before you know it, October's going to be here, and we're going to have to be putting our
Cold, quick.
cold quick, and we have to be turning the furnace on. Have us out there and make sure it's actually working properly. Also, what we're going to do is make sure there's no cracked heat exchanger, and that's the little box that keeps the fire separate from the
Mm.
house air. So once there's a breach in there, if there ever becomes a breach in there, now all of a sudden you're essentially got an exhaust pipe going into your house from a car because we're burning fuel, so you get carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide and trace elements of other things. So it's not good. So anyway, we got those specials going on. So $49 for electrical, water heater, and HVAC, and a $97 drain cleaning. So yeah, give us a call. So we're leading with that. And also, I'll just remind you our phone number, 530-230-9092, 530-230-9092. I know you didn't come to the show to listen to me talk about our specials. You came here to talk about DIY stuff. So we're going to finish our list of listener submitted questions. So Rosalie, why don't you take it away and we'll get going on that.
Me.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, my dad plans to install a new garbage disposer this weekend. How difficult is this project, and can this really be done by an average Joe with no plumbing experience?
Dan?
Andrew?
Oh, okay. So yes and no. Really do have to pay attention. Maybe if you did enough videos and just get a good grasp on things. If sometimes you can, we don't as professionals, but the basket strainer that the garbage disposal attaches to, we replace those. Those can be kind of difficult and for a homeowner to do that doesn't have any experience.
The snap ring on those is ridiculously difficult if you've never done it before.
And then one of the other things is and I've done it on accident, but you have a dishwasher and you hook up your dishwasher to it, but you forgot to actually punch out the hole on it. And then all of a sudden your dishwasher's not draining and you wonder why. Well,
right.
It's because the hole's not pushed
So
out.
in a disposer, there's a little nipple that comes off the side of it that you tie in a dishwasher. Not everybody has a dishwasher. So they have a little knockout in there, knockout plug. It's part of the casting that is there all the time. And if we hook up a dishwasher to it, we need to literally take a hammer and a screwdriver and knock that plug out of there. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that call where we've gone out, like, I've got water. We just put a new disposer in, and I've got water coming out of the air gap. Or they'll just say, I've got water coming out of that thing that's on the counter whenever I run my dishwasher. And that thing that's on the counter that's for your dishwasher, I'll go into a little detail with that. That keeps sewage out of your dishwasher. I'm a firm believer in air gaps. I know I've talked to a couple contractor friends of mine. They're like, well, they're ugly. We don't install them. Well, it's code. And the reason why it's code is because in residences, we leave dishes in our dishwasher after they're clean, and they can be there for, I don't know, for like me, they'll be in there for days, sometimes weeks, right? And if it has a direct connection to the sewer, there's that potential that raw sewage can get into your dishes and you can use your dishes. So it's really nasty. So we want to have that air gap, and it's literally a gap of air between the drain. So if there's no siphoning happening, there's no drainage happening from your sewer into your dishwasher. But anyway, that's what that air gap's for. That's why we have a plug in the disposer. So can it be done?
So yeah,
long story short is, it could definitely be done by a homeowner. Is there a chance that you're going to be calling us because it didn't work? I'd say if you've never done it before, there's a good 50-50 chance you're going to have to call a plumber out there to get it, because it's not an easy one, and there's a lot of details that go with it.
Right.
But as long as if you've watched all the videos and really dove into it, and the devil's in the details, right? On like I used to be a house painter when I was 18, and prepping to paint took twice as long as the actual painting. If you've never done something before, preparation is more critical than actually doing it. I would spend at least 2 to 3 hours researching how to do it before I actually dive into it. If you've never done something before, it's kind of bad to wait till the end, wait till the end to read the instructions kind of thing, because you're going to miss stuff.
Yep.
That's fair.
It's kind of like I have an uncle that wanted to fix his toilet, and after 4 trips to the hardware store and all that stuff to fix a handle on a toilet,
right?
That's what the professional does. Is we've already tripped over those same issues, and
they're threaded
from it.
They're threaded backwards, which is really weird for most people. They can't get it off. They can't get the little nut off because it's literally threaded backwards. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's one of those things. If you prep for it, you can do it, but there's a good chance you're going to be calling a plumber. So if you want to save yourself the hassle, call a plumber first. If you're into a little masochistic kind of thing and you want to do it yourself, because not only that, but oh my gosh, getting in there and trying to hook up the disposer to that basket underneath the sink.
That could be a pain too.
With the cabinet digging into your back. I mean, at this point in my life, I I'm 56. I'll probably hire somebody to do it just because I don't like getting underneath sinks anymore because it hurts. I'm just too old at this point.
I
So
know for a fact you'll write a check. You won't go under the sink. I
yeah, at
know
this
that to be
point,
true.
yeah, yeah.
No, he won't. He'll tell one of the guys here and go, "Hey, go do
Well,
this for me now." I
let's
guess he's
just
still writing the
yeah,
check, but yeah.
Training. I call it training.
I know.
I tell them how to do it. I get the apprentices out and I tell them how to do it, and I can critique them on their work, and so it's a win-win for both of us.
You know who you're reminding me of? Your dad. Remember how when you were a kid and your dad would make
Oh,
you help and it was a learning experience? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's not
Okay.
child labor; it's learning
yeah,
experience.
exactly.
That's what I heard. Child of the
Yeah,
70s.
Here at ABT, we do not advocate for child labor.
right.
Just letting you know.
Correct.
Side note.
Correct. Okay. So next question is, and this question I actually know the answer to, but since I'm not the plumber,
Huh?
why does my guest bathroom smell when it rarely gets used?
Train guy.
Drain guy. I guess that's me. All right. Yeah, that happens often when I hear this and they go, I got a smell in the bathroom, and I go in and I just turn on the fixtures and does it still smell? And they go, oh no, it actually stopped. So what it is, under every fixture is a P-trap, and that P-trap holds water to keep sewer gases from going from your septic system and or city sewer system into your house. What happens over time, water evaporates, and that water that's in that P-trap evaporates out and allows gases to be able to go again from your septic or city sewer into your home. So what you need to do, and I always tell people this for two reasons. One, once a month, you ought to go into every fixture, especially ones you don't use often, and turn every fixture on, even though you don't use it. If it's a tub, everybody loves those big jacuzzi tubs, but then after about a year, they stop using them. And, yes, turn on the water. And they go, why? I don't use it. I said, well, you got to keep that P-trap full, one. But two, it's also good for the fixture to exercise it, both the hot and the cold side. So if you have showers, faucets, toilets, it all ought to be used at least, once a month, not only to keep that P-trap full, but to keep the working components of those valves and everything else moving, so that way they don't seize up and then cause a problem when you do try to use it much later. So it's actually a twofold process that helps in both ways, keep those P-traps full and flex those valves.
And I'm gonna talk a little bit
So,
about P-traps. Well, go ahead.
so what you smell though, so the smell is actually the sewer gas you're smelling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm gonna talk about P-traps because I love the P-trap, and I teach this. I do high school classes every once in a while, and I'll bring P-traps in and just talk about the P-trap. It's a really simple device, but it literally saves thousands of lives every year, if not more. That P-trap fills up with water, keeps the sewer gases out, but it not only does it keep sewer gases out, but it keeps the pests out. So one thing that happens in a lot of third world countries is you have open pits of sewage and open areas with sewage in it. Flies land on that sewage. If there's any disease in that sewage, whether it's cholera or any kind of bacteria or pest or bugs that can make you sick, will literally get onto the fly or the bug's legs, and then that fly can land on your food. And then all of a sudden, now you're eating those pests, the bugs and the amoebas or whatever. I can't think of the right word from it, but the bad stuff, the bad cholera and anything else can get transmitted from those bugs from the sewage into your food, and that's what happens. So the P-trap protects you from that. We literally, we've kind of lost this thing about plumbers save the health of the nation. We literally protect the health of the nation. We make sure that we keep sewage and water separate. We make sure the sewage and the gases from the sewers are separate from our household, because people literally die from this around the planet because of the P-trap. And the P-trap is one of these simple little devices. And if you lose that seal, if you lose the water, now all of a sudden you literally have an open sewer in your house. Open sewer. I can't stress that enough. An open sewer. And the same thing with the disposer and not having an air gap. Now you have an open sewer attached to your dishwasher. So you want to make sure you have some way of separating these things, and a P-trap is one of those things that does
And
that.
maintaining them.
and
Like
maintain
keeping
it.
water in them and things like that when you're not, it's a fixture you're not using all the time.
Yeah.
Of course, thanks for that visual. I really like that. I'm not going to eat lunch now.
Right. Um, but it happens every day in other
Sure.
countries. So it's like, and we,
We take it for granted.
we take it for granted in this country, and unfortunately, we've kind of lost that with the idea of how well plumbing and the codes that have been implemented over the past couple hundred years, how many lives that actually saves. All you got to do is travel to another country, a third world country, and see people dying from really simple things, not dysteria, but dysentery. It's because of that cross contamination of sewage and drinking water and P traps, keeping the sewage separate from the household. Anyway, I think we got time for one more.
We do, and this is actually a question that I think is perfect because Dan, you are the company expert on this. Can you explain the difference between a snake and a jetter? Which one works better and has longer lasting results?
That's a very good question. So the difference between a snake and a jetter, they're two different pieces of equipment that are used to help open up and get drain lines draining again. So a snake, what it does is it just kind of breaks up the material that's in there. Oftentimes, especially if you have roots, things like that, it'll drill a hole kind of through it and get some flow going, where a jetter can actually clean to the edges of the pipe and often can cut back roots if they're not too thick, things like that. And it can do a better job of cleaning fats, oils, greases, build up on the pipes, and it can actually be used to clean the pipe. So if you use a snake, the snake kind of drills a hole through it and tries to get flow, but it doesn't clean the inside of the pipe. The jetter can actually clean the inside of the pipe and do a better job as far as that goes. So obviously between the two, which one lasts longer? Usually it's the jetter, unless there's actually a problem with the pipe, like a belly, a separation, a break, those type of things. So I've had people come up and they go, "Oh, I know what the problem is I have roots in my system." I said, "Well, that's the symptom. You have roots. The problem is you got a broken pipe, because the roots can't get into the pipe unless the pipe is broken. So if you really want to solve that problem long term, you got to fix the pipe, and then the roots don't get in. As roots get in, you cut them back, whether it be with the jetter or a cable. What ends up happening is they grow back faster and they grow back thicker. So eventually what will happen is it'll cause the collapse of the pipe, which can make it a lot more difficult for a repair in the future or anything else, and causes, instead of taking care of it preemptively when you realize you have a problem, it can cause a major problem later. And of course, it always happens like on Christmas Eve or something like that. It never happens at an opportune time. And then all of a sudden now you're down and out because there's literally a collapsed pipe right there, and you have to get to it now and everything else. So it's good to take care of these things before it becomes a big major emergency versus just an emergency because it's stopped.
So we kind of squirreled off, but really so I'm gonna go back to the
Jetting and cable.
cabling and jetting. So when we go in and root her out using a snake, it's essentially putting a hole through it. It's like taking a chopstick and putting a hole through a plug, right? But if you use the jetter, it's more like a scouring brush because it's pushing out water at 4,000, 3,000,
4,000 psi.
4,000 psi.
One of our heads is about 18 gallons a minute.
Yeah, I mean, when we went out to have this product demoed for us, they gave us a demo where they took the jetter and we put it up against a 2x4 and we cut a 2x4 in half with this thing. I mean, it's that powerful. It'll cut a branch. But back to your point about, what do we do when we go in and root a line and take the roots out? Yeah, all we're doing is pruning them. We're just literally pruning it. If you have any gardening experience where you're pruning a tree, you're taking one branch, cutting it, now you got two. You take two, now you got four. You got four, now you got eight. That's all we're doing. But anyway, with that, yeah, definitely give us a call. We can come out and help you with that. Looks like it's the end of our show. You can reach us at 530-230-9092, 530-230-92. Call us about our $97 drain cleaning special, and you can find us on the web at abtplumbing.com. Thanks for listening to us, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.